youngest, my drum major nickname is Spotlight. I am one of the drum majors with Dillard. I was one of the drum majors with Dillard last year. And it was kind of a play on words. In a historically Black high school, I was, the white female drum major. So Spotlight, number one, I shine, but eyes are on me. There's a spotlight on me. So I felt the pressure, but I also felt like the intensity going out on the field and being able to performing in parades. I always had to put on my A game. I had to push myself, and just that feeling of being on the field, on the 45, and just putting all my heart and soul into a performance is one of the greatest things that I've been able to do. Mm-hmm. And having the crowd focus on you, having people cheer for you, it's like exhilarating.
Good evening and welcome to Game Changers with Fabian Lyon. Glad you could join me this evening. We have a special guest here today. This is Dillard High School band that's nationally acclaimed, and we are really honored to have them here. This program has been among the best, if not the best, in the nation for quite a few years. So very, very honored to have members of the respective bands, the wind orchestra, the jazz, and the marching band. So I welcome, first of all, marching band director Sheldon McLean. Sheldon, thank you for making the time along with your students tonight.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's great to be here. It's always a good thing to talk about our program and the things that students and staff and faculty, what we're able to do for them. So thank you for having us on the show.
Okay. And first of all, I would like to introduce the students that made time this evening. Charles Cherry, he plays the trumpet. He's a junior. There's Madalena Freydin. She plays the clarinet. She's a senior. Joshua Jackson, saxophone, a junior. Mackenzie Tice, the French horn, and she's a senior. Garrett Lubbers plays the trumpet. He's a junior. Aviel Del Rosario plays the bass, a junior. And Brandon Stacy is here as well. Adrian Braga has sent in a video, and we'll probably get to that as well. So that should pretty much round out who's here tonight. And I believe Sheldon, that you have a video that you'd like to play for us right now.
Yeah, sure.
Very nice. And Sheldon, I just want to start with you. If you could just maybe give me an overview of that dynamic program there. I know Israel Charles and Chris Dorsey, two mainstays there in the program, and just give us maybe a little overview of that program and how you got to Dillard and what has been your experience so far as a marching band director.
Yeah, man. Firstly, Dillard Center for the Arts is is really the magnet, one of the magnet programs at Dillard High School. Dillard High School is a pretty old school in Broward County. And, we take the performing arts pretty seriously. We have a bunch of talented students and passionate teachers, but specifically with the Dillard bands, it's been a hallmark, I think, in the community for a while. The marching band has a rich history. The jazz band has a rich history that my colleague, Christopher Dorsey, who we'll talk about a little bit more at length, he's been at Dillard, I think, maybe about 15 years or so, and has developed the program. In my opinion, was one of the first things that pushed the Dillard band program to the national scene. He started bringing the band to these regional competitions up in Georgia, Swing Central, I think was the name of it. And that catapulted into essentially Ellington, which is a huge national jazz band competition that happens in New York City every year. And Dillard's been there, I think, of his career, which I think is maybe 15 years, might have been there. Students, you guys could tell me if I'm right, I think maybe 9 or 10 years, almost back to back. And of those years that he's been there, the band is always placed in the top 3 or 4 and has won the competition maybe about 5 times. So when you talk about a nationally recognized and ranked program, I think the jazz band has been leading the way for that. Historically, one of the Adderley brothers was a teacher there. So I think him coming in, and it's not that he wasn't doing those things before. He had an outstanding program at his other schools. But when he's come to Dillard, I think he cemented himself as one of the great music educators in our state and even nationally. So that's been going on for a while. And you'll hear from some of the students that they asked if they can play some jazz stuff, they could play some different things. And I said, of course, it's all together. And so Mr. Israel Charles, he's the artistic director. So he's kind of like the boss that makes everything happen. I was teaching at William Dandy Middle School, which is one of the middle schools in the area. And I met Israel Charles then. I had already known about Mr. Dorsey, obviously because of the things he's been able to do with his programs. And so we met a couple of times and they brought me on board. But what makes the story even more interesting is the principal at Dillard High School, Cassandra Robinson. I had known her since I was in high school. And so because she was an administrator at the high school that I went to. And so it just is an interesting alignment of the stars for all of us to end up at the same place. And it's really a blessing to work with such passionate people. I'm from Broward County, been in band for, since high school. My band director was Richard Beckford. Richard Beckford is kind of the person that brought me into band. I was into music from before. I'd taken lessons and playing in church and things like that. But Richard Beckford is the person who brought me into band. And Richard Beckford, he taught at Carroll City High School for a while, and he taught at Ely High School, Blanche Ely High School, which is where I graduated from. Oddly enough, teaching at Dillard High School and graduated from Ely. But yeah, he was the person that really brought me into this thing. And he was a FAMU graduate. And, I kind of got pushed into that whole FAMU thing. And it was a great experience, man. I loved my time being at FAMU and being a part of the Marching 100 up there in the band program. My major was not initially music education. My major was healthcare administration. And I went down that road and I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to work with young people. I want to do music. I want to be 10 toes down with the next generation. And so it all kind of worked out for us to all be there at the same time. And like I said, it's a blessing. And like I said, the arts program is deep there. Everything from orchestra to the concert bands, the jazz bands, the drama program, the visual art program, the vocal program, commercial music, music production, anything to deal with the performing and visual arts. You can't talk about that in South Florida without talking about Dillard. So that's kind of where the program is right now. Okay.
All right. Great. That's some great insight there. And I want to talk to Aviel Del Rosario, and as a junior playing the bass, what does it feel to be a part of that program? And maybe who have you looked up to as far as bass players, nationally or maybe internationally, that have inspired you, Aviel?
mean, being part of this program, it's stepping in. To me, it's stepping into a legacy, because when I first got into the classroom and I see just all these posters on the walls of all these competitions, and as I listen to Mr. Dorsey, I hear him talking about previous students, and if I look where they are now, they're doing great things, and stepping into that is it's intimidating, definitely at first, but it's also something that I'm really happy to be doing, because this is something I love.
Okay. All right. And how about Garrett? Garrett, just give a little insight on how you got to Dillard and why you picked up the trumpet of all the instruments that you picked. Tell me about playing the trumpet.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually I actually started in 7th grade and I didn't even want to play. My grandparents kind of forced me to do it because they thought it would be good for me. But then eventually I just started listening to a bunch of different bands and a bunch of different players play like these high notes and stuff, and it started to appeal to me. And so yeah, I just started practicing from then on. And then I heard about Dillard, and until the last day of summer break when I was going into my freshman year, I was actually enrolled to another school because there was a bunch of problems. And then literally like late at night, they said I could go to Dillard, and so I was super psyched about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got really lucky on it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's awesome. If you're just joining us here on Game Changers with Fabian Lyon, we are with members of the Dillard Center for the Arts, highly acclaimed band. And we have 3 different bands that are represented here, wind orchestra, jazz, and marching band. And helping us get through it is marching band director Sheldon McLean. So once again, thanks everybody for joining us here. I'm recording here live out of Verse City Photo Studios in Miami. So once again, thanks to everybody for joining us. And Sheldon, is somebody going to perform for us now?
Yeah, man. Let's let one of the students introduce themselves. Playing. Let's get Aviel looks ready. He's got his bass ready. Let's get Aviel to play a little something for us.
All right.
Understood. The piece I decided to play was a piece called Tricketism. And I chose this one specifically because it's meant to be played with as a bass player. Mm-hmm. There we go.
Okay, that's awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff there, Aviel. Good stuff. And Sheldon, just tell me how music has just a way of really bringing people together and just I'm sure it must feel like a family atmosphere there in your class and between all 3 band programs. Just talk about that family atmosphere that's there.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that myself and Mr. Dorsey tell the students all the time is that you guys are going to go on, and some of you guys are going to perform. Some people, and even people on this call, don't necessarily have the intention of becoming a solely professional musician. For some people, it's a recreational thing, and it just came up in class maybe a couple of days ago. And then some people are going to take it, to the professional realm. They're going to make a living from this thing. But they're never going to play in bands quite like the ones that they're in now because of that thing you're talking about, this family atmosphere, this undertone in the curriculum of love. You're not going to find a group of people, I think, in one place that are going to teach love through music. Teach self-respect through music, teach all these things through music. And I think that's one of the things that's the glue really that keeps this together. And we've heard everything from, well, the only reason Dillard's good is because it's in the soil. It's like, I don't know if that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's passionate teachers. I think there's students that want to learn. I think there's people like Mr. Charles who fight for the resources that we need to be able to do the job. And, I think that helps a lot. The trips, we'll talk a little bit later about the Carnegie Hall trip, which was the last trip that we took. But, the many trips, the marching band, the sessions in the band room where we take the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes of class, and we haven't even talked about notes and rhythms. We're just talking about life. That I think is the glue. So that whole love thing, that family thing, is like once you're a part of it, you're always a part of it. And like I said, I think that's the glue.
Okay. And I just want to pose a general question to all the students here. Is there one person or band you would like to collaborate with? Who would that be? I'm sure you've thought many times. You've seen all other performers, that are touring, for example. Brandon, for example, is there anybody that stands out for you that you'd like to collaborate with?
If there's any band I would love to collaborate with, it would probably be someone like Music Soul Child, because I'm a really big fan of his music, and I think it would be a pretty cool experience being able to play with someone I admire so much.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Mackenzie, for example, is there anybody there that really stands out for you?
Maybe not a specific artist, but I've always loved orchestral music, and the French horn lines in orchestral music are just so beautiful to me. And I just love like the way that strings sound, and when a full orchestra is playing. We don't have the chance to have a full orchestra at Dillard, but it's probably actually going to move towards that. But when we went, this is a little snippet of when we went to New York, we got to listen to the New York Philharmonic, and it was one of the most amazing things I got to experience. And I would love to be on that stage and just to be able to hear music being made around me. That would be incredible.
Right. Okay. And I want to talk to Madalena about just for maybe a few that might not realize the sacrifice and the hours that you put in. I think athletes many times, and deservedly so, they have to put in the extra work. But tell me about a typical day for you before all this COVID experience. But just tell me how much hours you put into your craft.
Personally, for me, we're putting in so many hours throughout the day, throughout the week. Most students, they get out of school at 2:40, they go home, they do homework. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just wondering, how are you able to do that? We stay after school a few hours a day for marching band. We practice and work on performances and routines for upcoming football games.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we'll stay after school 2 hours a day working on upcoming concerts and such for one orchestra and our jazz band.
Okay. And anybody here, have you had two loves going into high school and you had to give up one, and how tough was that? Is anybody here that was really torn between music and something else? And if you could speak on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I actually came into Dillard doing both theater and band, but automatically I just fell in love with the wind orchestra, the marching band program. I'm only in marching band and wind orchestra. I'm not in the jazz program, but I do have a ton of friends that are in it, and I see how amazing it is as well. But I was just, it just pulled me in, and I couldn't escape it. It wasn't actually difficult for me to make the switch. It was just, that family environment was exactly what happened to me, and I got sucked in, and all of my friends are in band, and all of my great memories from high school are with band. So that switch wasn't hard.
Okay. All right. And Joshua, I saw you had your hand up. Let's hear
I
your
was
story.
going to say thank you, man. Josh, you got to let Josh speak on this, because Josh, you talk about making a choice, but yeah, I'll let Josh speak, and then I'll speak after that.
Okay. All right.
I got to Dillard in 6th grade. I was in Dillard Middle School, and I had been from the beginning, like I had been growing up listening to Dillard High School marching band. I grew up playing football also.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like once I got to that, my first year being in the band, I was happy. I had to do football and band, and it was kind of like, as I got to the end of the year, I had to choose, and I thought about it really hard, and I was like, okay, yes, I have to choose marching band, because it's like marching band is where my heart is. I love marching band, and then marching band, being with Mr. McLean, it exposed me to wind orchestra, exposed me to jazz band, and I just fell in love with it automatically.
Okay, I see your nickname is Hitman, Joshua. So I figured you are a hitting machine on the football field, but now you're hitting them with music, like Bob Marley said, man, hit me with music. Okay, and go ahead, Sheldon.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about this, and I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. This past summer, you know, we lost a giant in our community at Dillard High School. So Coach Eddie Frazier, who was similar, I think, to Josh in ways. I mean, Coach Eddie Frazier played with, I think, Lauderdale Lakes? Yeah, Lauderdale Lakes Vikings football club, you know, Optimist or Pee Wee football and everything. And then end up coaching with them. And Josh played with Lauderdale, you know, I mean, LLB was kind of like a similar thing. And Coach Frazier, he loved the band. I mean, when I tell you he loved the band, he would text me and be like, man, are y'all gonna play that this week? You know, he'd be on the sideline like, hey man, can y'all play this right quick, man? My boys need, you know what I mean? Like we would just have that type of communication. And it was a beautiful thing. I think he might have been the only football coach that I worked with that came to an assessment of ours. Wow. Like we had a marching band assessment. You know, a lot of people see the band at athletic events or community events. So you see the band at the football game. It's a football game. The band is pulling maybe an equal amount of patrons to the football game, but it's a football game. You know what I mean? Like it's halftime at a football game. Or, you know, it's a parade or whatever it is. But there are events that are music and band centered. We have Ballad of Bands. We have these exhibition shows. We have these assessments. And man, it was great because last year, Coach Frazier, and at the end of the show, we're going to play a little bit of the show, but Coach Frazier made it his purpose. Like he was like, man, whenever that assessment is, make sure I'm there. And it was just great to see him in his football gear at the assessment, man. And he had some encouraging words for us. And you know, maybe I'll pull up that video if I get a chance. But I'd be remiss if I did not, you know, just take a little moment of silence and acknowledge him because, you know, this past summer he passed. And, you know, it was rough. It was rough for the entire community. Him as well as one of our band staff members, Mr. Leonard Sanchez. They both passed this summer. So you know, if we could just take maybe about 30 seconds just to acknowledge them with a moment of silence. Yeah, man. And if we can, man, I'd love to play that because we kind of did a tribute to Coach Frazier on our Instagram page, just because I mean he was such both, you know, Coach Leonard and Coach Frazier, but we did a tribute to him on our Instagram page, and maybe we'll have a chance to share that as we get through the show. And you know, obviously the plan would be we're a band, you know what I mean? We were going to be dedicating shows, you know, we were going to make sure that people remembered these giants in our community through our pageantry, through our art. But obviously, you know, I don't know, when's the next time we'll be on a football field all together? Right.
No doubt. And, you know, I'd like to take this opportunity to also pay respect to a good friend of mine who passed from the Dillard family, Terry. He was part of the just the historic boys basketball program there, known as Juicy as well. And he was like a brother to me. So once again, we lost some dear people. And once again, just rest in peace to all three gentlemen. So Charles, I want to ask you, you've been quiet, but I know you are tearing it up with the trumpet. And I want to ask you, where do you find inspiration in the trumpet and outside of music for creating with the trumpet and maybe writing your own music? So outside of music, where do you find your inspiration?
Outside of music. Like usually my main inspiration for like when I play music is the emotional effect it could have for people, how it can make people's days better, it could brighten their moods. And I've just been trying to really perfect my craft in that way. So I've been trying to write music. I've been trying to do other things with that.
Okay. And who do you kind of look up to on the next level as far as has really perfected their craft and somebody you follow?
A trumpet great that I really follow is Louis Armstrong. He always loved to play for his audience. He loved just making music. And I strive to be like him in the performance sector.
What part about his performance, because he was such a powerful performer, what part of it has really stuck with you, Louis Armstrong? What part of him?
His passion, I think. Like whenever he sings, whenever he plays, he always looks like he's enjoying it. And I'm pretty sure he always was.
Okay, so he brought that energy, right? Every time you'd see some footage of him, just high energy throughout, from start to finish.
Yes, sir.
No doubt, no doubt. Okay, Sheldon, is Charles ready to play now?
Yeah, Charles, go ahead and play. Just play something for us. Let us know what you're going to play.
The song I'm playing is an excerpt of Stephen Bullis' Requiem from the Concert Studies for Trumpet book.
Good stuff there, Charles. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask Mackenzie, as far as, tell me what making music means to you. And if there is a message, what would that message be every time you pick up, you start either writing music or performing? What message, if there is a message, that are you trying to convey?
Well, usually when I perform, most of the time I'm with my ensemble. Most of the time I'll play my French horn with the wind orchestra as a whole. Every time that I pick up my horn to play, I want to make something beautiful. I want to add more like goodness to the world. You know what I mean? My inspiration for playing my instrument is to be something better, is to grow as a person, and not only musically, but through lessons that I learn and whatnot. And so sharing my journey through music is really my goal, and working with other people, that collaboration I think is just so important. And I think it's just a crucial aspect of what I bring to the table. Like I just adore working with other people in the mesh of harmonies and different things going on in a song that you can really present while being a part of an ensemble. Mm-hmm. So I just want the message of the band and all the work that we've put in to really just have an output and just to have a release and just make people feel something.
Right. And Aviel, I wanted to ask you, what does it mean to play for such great directors that are as passionate about the craft as you are? How important it is that the people that are leading that way for you are as passionate and they put in all that time?
That's a very important aspect of all of this, because a student without a great teacher who will guide that student can't go as far as they could be able to. And so having people like Mr. McLean and Mr. Dorsey not only have my back, but constantly push me to strive for greater things, even when I don't think I can do those things. That's always that leads Dillard onto the next step.
Okay. All right. And Brandon, with the last couple months that we've experienced very surreal times with COVID, and just how how have you and how have your band colleagues just transitioned, changed their life? And how much has this affected everybody? And how are you making the best of it, you think?
In these times, I'll say everything is just, life itself just slowed down and sort of just isolated people as a whole. And some people are like really struggling and like they need someone to like kind of like push them through it. So I think it's very important for us to just like keep in touch. Maybe if you notice like someone's not being productive with themselves and they're kind of just like falling into like the pit that we're going through, kind of like just give them something to do, like tell them like, I don't know, check out this song, maybe learn it, or maybe we can put something together, kind of like just keep the group in a whole and keep as tight as when we were actually playing with each other. And like when it comes to the band, I think we're definitely starting to like get used to how everything's working. We're starting to put stuff together. We're starting to play as a band again. We might not be able to play like with each other at the same time, but we're still putting together music so we can share with our audience.
Okay, so everybody's kind of picking each other up and sharing videos and sharing what they've created, and you think that has really helped just get through these times, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Sheldon, anything you want to add in that in terms of teaching and just I'm sure it's a big reconstruct for you.
Yeah, it is, and I think since March we came back from New York and the whole world kind of shut down and we had to address things differently. No one knew exactly what was going. Well, I can't say no one. Maybe some people knew, but we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how long this was gonna last. We didn't know the impact it was gonna have on all of our lives. It kind of started off as like, okay, an extended spring break, and then okay, an extended summer break, and then we're like, okay, wait a minute, this is a shift. This thing is more serious than we may be thinking. Mm-hmm. And I remember Mr. Dorsey. Anybody who knows Mr. Dorsey, he was like, no, man, this thing is serious. No, like, no, serious. This thing is serious. Mm-hmm. And it kind of hit me like, yeah, we're gonna have to address a lot of what we do. I think we're like we've been saying, passionate about teaching, passionate about education, and passionate about these young people. And there's a job to be done. You got to take into consideration that people are hurting. People's families are impacted in ways that you may not understand. There could be people on this call right now that have been impacted by COVID in ways that we don't know. And it's just trying to get back into school and create an environment for learning. It's significantly different because you can't control the learning environment. Everyone's at home on their computers. And then as far as collaboration and working together, like Mackenzie said, an ensemble format, the time that we would come into the band room before class starts and there's just general conversation, the time they have in the locker room, the time, all those things are kind of being pulled away from the experience. And as a teacher, you got to figure out how do I still remain relevant? How do I make sure the curriculum is still rigorous and relevant, but taking into consideration what's going on in the world? So myself and Mr. Dorsey, man, I think we might have talked weekly or if not bi-weekly over the summer, like, man, how are we going to engage the students? How are we going to, it's not just a break. I mean, it was cool. It would be a break if it was 2 weeks, if it were a month maybe, but we have to actually construct curriculum that is going to work in this less than ideal situation. So it's a constant thing. I mean, and we talk probably weekly now. At the end of the week, Mr. Charles has like a little happy hour thing where we get on Zoom and or Teams and talk about how did this week go? Okay, what do we need to do? How can we make things better? It's a constantly moving thing. So because we want to still be relevant, we still want to make sure the students get the experience that they deserve.
Okay, how much easier is it that it is your passion and what it means to all your students, Sheldon? How much does that make it? I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find a way, just knowing that all these students are depending on you to find a way?
Man, easier would not be the word that I would say.
Right.
Because it's your passion. I don't know anybody who can execute their passion and say that it's easy. Why? Because you're constantly trying to make it better. You know, I don't know any musician who records a record and it's like, yeah, that's it, man. It's going to be incredible. I mean, many times they're like, man, maybe we should do this right here, or maybe we can go into the drop right here, or we can pull out. That we're constant. That's as artists, you know. I forget if it was Erykah Badu or I think it was Erykah Badu that talked about, you know, we're artists and we're sensitive about our stuff. We want people to love it. We want it to come across a particular way. So being passionate about education, being passionate about young people, and being passionate about music in a less than ideal situation is probably more difficult, because you have to sit there and consider, man, is what I'm saying through this computer really getting through? Are they paying attention? How many students have the screen right here and the Netflix right here, and they looking back and forth between you and them? You know, those are all things that you got to consider when it comes to engaging. And then you want to say, are we putting the students in the best possible position to move forward and be successful?
Right.
At the end of the day, I mean, we're going to do great things at Dillard. That's never the concern. The concern is always, what position are we putting the students in when they graduate, when their world starts for real? So I would say that it's more difficult at this point. We were still trying to figure it out before COVID hit, and now we got hit with a whole nother set of circumstances.
And Charles, I wanted to ask you, just tell me how all this discipline is going to help you on the next level, whether it's playing in an orchestra or being a CEO. Just tell me how this structure, this discipline, all the time you put into your craft is setting you up for a very, very good future.
So one thing that Mr. McLean and Mr. Dorsey always say to us is, be the best version of yourself that you could be. Like, always strive to go to the next level, whether it's in music and whatever. Try to be the best. Try to be the best in whatever you are in. And I think this will help, like, no matter where you go, because like hard work is important for everything. Every profession, in my opinion.
Okay. Who, by a show of hands, who is in a marching band? Who was in a marching band last year? Okay. All right. So Madalena, I want to ask you, now I've been to a couple Dillard football games, and when the marching band is on, I've seen opposing fans start swaying to the beat. I mean, what does it feel like to be part of that when the whole stadium kind of comes to a pause and literally focuses on the Dillard marching band and really getting into, how does that feel as a performer?
As a performer, sometimes at first it could be terrifying seeing so many people in the stands watching you, making sure hoping you don't mess up. But as you start and as you begin to get into it, you start to feel excited. You start to feel their excitement rubbing off on you, and it just happens.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was wondering if I could interject.
Sure.
The joke is, my drum major nickname is Spotlight. I am one of the drum majors of Dillard. I was one of the drum majors of Dillard last year, and it was kind of a play on words. In a historically Black high school, I was, the white female drum major. So spotlight, number one, I shine, but eyes are on me. There's a spotlight on me. So I felt the pressure, but I also felt like the intensity going out on the field and being able to performing in parades. I always had to put on my A game. I had to push myself, and just that feeling of being on the field, on the 45, and just putting all my heart and soul into a performance is one of the greatest things that I've been able to do. And having the crowd focus on you, having people cheer for you, it's like exhilarating.
Wow, that's awesome. Because I feel that energy every time I'm at a Dillard football game. You just feel that energy. And Sheldon, did you want to play a video now, or ask somebody else to play? It's on, whatever you want to do here.
Yeah, man. I mean, there is some stuff about the marching band thing I want to address,
Sure.
and we can talk a little bit about that. The Dillard High School marching band, I think, is it's like a pillar in the community. It's been going on since before I've been there. There's been plenty of people to come through the program that are doing great things. And so I think when I got to Dillard, my whole thing was, how can I take this legacy and push it to the next level, like just through the stratosphere? And of course, it's still music and it's still education. So adherence to performance fundamentals is always going to be paramount, right? But then you also have to address your community. You got to bring the music to them in a way that they're going to be able to interpret it and understand it and feel good about it. But you also have to educate the community about what we feel is important when it comes to performance. So I've had a great time, man. I mean, Dillard has really helped me to grow as an educator, helped me to grow as a person of the community. Again, I went to Ely High School, so I come from a whole other side of things, and brought everything that I knew, and then learned a bunch of things here. But yeah, I'm blessed to be in that position. There's directors upon directors, and one thing I did is I went and I tried to research and tried to talk to each of the directors who were still living from before me, because I knew that it was a Herculean task to try to push this brand forward. And I think we've done that, and I'm excited to continue to do that. But man, it's a great thing. And one of the things I love about marching band is that it brings everyone together, from the all-state musician down to the person who just saw the marching band, parade in front of their house for the last 8 years or 12 years of their life, and said to themselves, I want to be a part of that because they lit. They play music I want to hear. Everybody doesn't want to just, focus on Tchaikovsky, which we're going to do that. But, and everybody doesn't want to just focus on Duke Ellington. We're going to do that. But there's also this other side, ensemble, a largely recreational ensemble that plays covers every Friday night. You know what I mean? Like that's incredible. Who doesn't want to be a part of a cover band? So when we select music, we want to select music that the community is going to appreciate, but also music that we'll be able to teach through as well. So we took this last year, and we can play a little bit of that video, but we covered a bunch of Temptations music. And it was important to me that our community, and more importantly, our students know about the Temptations. If we're going to celebrate John Philip Sousa, then we need to celebrate the Temptations. You know what I mean? If we're going to celebrate this, then you have to know about Motown Records. You have to know about everything that comes, especially out of the Black diaspora, and our music, our composers, our writers, our producers. It's important to know these people because they've made significant marks in this whole music thing. So we have some video of that we were really proud of, man. That the students did a great job covering that music. And when we study the music, we don't just pass out the notes and the rhythm and say, okay, here, play it. Now we're going to check out the records. We're going to check out different performances of it. We're going to try to figure out who was writing for the Temptations at that time and what they were influenced like, and really try to get the style of music down, because I think that's important. So yeah.
Okay. All right. And all right. So whenever you're ready with that video, Sheldon, I did want to ask, with all what's going on with the civil unrest, and I believe that our younger generation is going to kind of lead us out of this mess. That's just my personal opinion. But I don't know if anybody wants to speak on what we have witnessed the past couple months. What's your observations through your eyes? And I want to give maybe Brandon an opportunity to speak on it, or anybody else, as far as where we are and how we could each individually help us be a better nation, a more civil nation, if anybody wants to talk about this.
I think regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, people are just, I think they're just following what kind of their parents or grandparents have taught them. Like, I don't really think like the racism thing is really just like, oh yeah, I don't like these people or anything. It's just something that they've just grown with, and it's not, I'm not saying like it's a good thing or anything. It's just, it was just brought onto them subconsciously. So I think people just need to start hearing people out and start hearing where they come from, their opinions, and start straying from like bad traditions that are being passed down, and start seeing where other people have gone through, and start listening to people's voices so we can come together as a whole and not fight with each other.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in here on what's going on and where you hope we're headed?
I kind of agree with what Brandon said. We just all need to talk out where we come from and come to a mutual understanding about where we're going.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think education is key, and ignorance is one of the worst things that could be in a country that's supposed to be united. The main thing that we need to do is to listen to each other, and especially the voices that have been suppressed for centuries. The voice of Black people has always been put to the background, and that needs to change. That shouldn't be happening anymore. And like Brandon said, there's traditions, but that doesn't mean they're good. We need to unlearn the bad things and learn that everybody is equal. Everybody should be equal, and that's not how it's being presented in our society. So letting people that aren't heard be heard is just progression.
Okay. And Madalena, once again, how can music bring us together? How is it key right now, music, in terms of what we're going through and how polarizing things appear the past couple months? But how can music kind of maybe bridge that gap and kind of bring people back to where they were, or even closer, do you believe?
I think music can bridge people together because music has no boundaries. It has no limitations. Music is not for just one group of people. For example, jazz was created by Blacks, but now, as you can see, anyone can play jazz music if they want to. Right now, music can be a way to spread a message. It can be used as the way to express emotions that haven't been heard for years now. Music can be that bridge. To help us all, and that's it.
Okay. That's great. Sheldon, I want to give you an opportunity, if you want, just to speak on what you're telling your students through these times, and they're looking for direction and leadership and some positivity, and maybe just share a little bit of your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and we talk at length sometimes about this stuff, but I'm echoing the sentiments of what they're saying. It's incredible actually to hear the young people to speak about these things in a way that seems so organic, seems so natural, and it seems so it's kind of like duh. You know what I mean? Like, let's communicate, let's talk about these things. We understand that you may come from a particular community, and so you see things from a certain light, and then it just seems that the younger generation is doing a much better job of understanding that, okay, we're different, and that's cool. Let's come together and talk about these differences and make the world a little bit better. So I'm with you, man. I'm like, these young people, they're really the generation that I think can turn over this entire system in a positive way. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. I'm going to continue to scream Breonna Taylor's name because, when you talk about silencing, I think Mackenzie said silencing the voices, you talk about being that double minority, being not only a person of color, but also being a woman. I talk to my wife about this all the time, how I didn't even recognize, and this goes to what Brandon was saying, I knew that there was a pay disparity with women, but I didn't recognize really the disparity, you know, and how it's in their face all the time. When we go sit down and go eat somewhere, the waiter or the maitre d' or whoever's going to speak to me, not to her. It's a societal norm. And I didn't recognize how much that plays on the way that I interpret things, the way that a woman would interpret things. So I'm going to continue to scream Breonna Taylor's name, because there's a lot of things that we've learned wrong, in my opinion. And I'm not saying it's just a white, black wrong. I'm not saying it's just a woman, man wrong. There's just a lot of things that we've had our ears closed and our eyes closed to for so long. And it's time for people to start listening. So like I said, I agree. I'm echoing the sentiments that they made. And, you know, I'm not a politician, but I'm a person that's impacted by the policies that they create. So with that being said, I'm going to continue to scream Breonna Taylor's name, and as a representation of all of the injustices that are pushed on our people. Right, no doubt. And Sheldon, before we get to the Carnegie Hall video, I just, for anybody just joining us, Game Changers here with Fabian Lyon, we are with members of the Dillard Performing Arts High School Band, which is already on the Mount Rushmore, if there is one, of high school bands. They've been year in, year out among the elite in the nation, winning numerous awards. And in a minute, Sheldon's going to share that very powerful, I saw a little snippet of it, of Carnegie Hall and your speech to your students. I'm here right in Verse City in Miami, right here in a photo studio broadcasting. But when I saw the first maybe 15 seconds of that video, Sheldon, it was powerful, because it was just not about performing, but why are we here? And what does it mean to you? So whenever you're ready, if we could roll that Carnegie Hall video.
I want you to take a moment to think about, like, not just that, but think about the why. It's the purpose.
Yeah, and an incredible thing about that whole experience, and you know, I'll let the students speak about their experience up in New York. But an incredible thing about that is, you know, we get into these situations where we got to perform, because that's pretty much the essence of what we do. It's the thing that everyone sees that we do. But it goes back to everything we've been talking about family and the hidden curriculum. And, you know, that was, I think, the night before we performed at Carnegie. And the conversation was just about the why. What does this all really mean? What does it mean to the people on stage? What does it mean to the people in the audience? And when you look back on this time, you know, what is that moment going to mean to you? And I like to ask those kind of questions to students, so that we're living beyond the surface or beneath the surface. The surface is what everyone else sees. The surface might be the things that you, when Fabian said, I'm going to have the Dillard band on that. Oh yeah, we got to get the Dillard band, man. Their jazz band's incredible. Yeah, their marching band. That's the stuff that y'all see. What you don't see is what we all call the hidden curriculum. And the whole thing is the students need to find what makes them the best version of themselves. And I think when you start addressing purpose, I think that's the quickest way to find the best version of yourself. Why are you doing things? What's your intention? Even when it comes to performing this music, I don't think we've ever had a perfect performance. I don't think any band has had a perfect performance. You know what I mean? But the intention is perfection. When we go out there, we want it, you know, and we want people to be able to tell that they're really trying to be perfect. That's the intention. And so intentionality and purpose is really important to what we do. So that's what that conversation was about. And another important thing to note, you know, that performance, you know, Carnegie Hall has some stipulations, which is why we couldn't get video of the actual performance, but that audio was actually from the performance. And we were performing a piece entitled Come Sunday, who was written by drawing a blank what his name is, Omar Thomas. Omar Thomas is a great band composer that's doing a lot of awesome things right now. But it was one of the first pieces of its time. It introduced traditional gospel music, gospel harmonies and progressions, and just it brought that whole gospel idiom into the concert band room. And that's significant because the orchestral realm is traditionally a European-centered music, all right? But now you have these American composers that are bringing different things of the culture into the band room. So now I thought it was a significant thing because now you have students who might have grown up in the church or students who might grow up with hearing these type of harmonies normally and getting to study it in the classroom, as opposed to always having to study a culture that is something different from yours. When you always have to study a culture that's different than yours, it almost makes it seem like yours is subpar. And so, I mean, that was an incredible experience. But even outside of the music, you know, that trip was the first time for a lot of students on an airplane. A lot of students, it was their first time being in New York City, being on the subway. And it was just incredible. Like, we went to Harlem. Well, obviously we were staying in Manhattan, and we got a real chance to enjoy New York. Now we performed maybe the 11th, I think maybe the 10th, or I think we performed on the 10th. And then we flew out on the 11th. Mm-hmm. On the 12th of March is when the state of emergency had been declared and New York City shut down.
Wow. So just made it out.
We literally just made it out. I mean, it was to the point where, you know, it was close. It was close. And we're glad to know that all the students are okay, and all of the people who were with us, the band parents, all the chaperones, and everyone, everything worked out. But that was our last time together. You know, so much so that I think we came back. There might have been one more day of school, and then spring break. And then after spring breaks, you know, we were told we weren't going to be back in the building. So we have not been together since that performance in New York City.
Right. Okay. And who made that Carnegie trip? Who performed? Who here? Okay. All right. And I want to go back to Brandon and ask you, what did it mean for you to play the historic Carnegie Hall, and just coming back home and thinking about that? Just tell me about that experience.
To be honest, I was just psyched to know that we were gonna have the chance to play in Carnegie Hall, where all these like legends have played throughout history, and I'm very fortunate, and I appreciate Mr. McLean for choosing me to do this. I got to be featured on Come Someday for a solo, and to be able to solo at Carnegie Hall, I think it's a great honor, and not very few people get the chance to perform there. But to solo it was just a crazy feeling. I had probably one of the best rushes of my life.
Senior there at Dillard High School, one of the many talented performances that we've had on this evening. Thanks for everybody for joining us. I know, Sheldon, you'd like to acknowledge the team, the staff, community, and alum. And after you do that, I'm going to close out, and then the grand finale will be the marching band Temptations cover. So if you just want to acknowledge, as you said, the staff and the community and all the integral parts of this whole program.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting thing, man. It's weird when you get to acknowledging stuff, but you'd be remiss if you didn't, because it's always someone that sends you a message like, bro, you know, what about me?
Right.
But the community, the Dillard community is deep. Like, you know, I talked about Mrs. Robinson, who's the principal at Dillard High School. Israel Charles, who, you know, everything runs through him. Nothing really can happen without him. But the entire performing arts faculty, Miss Bahari, who was a vocal teacher. I cannot go on without talking about Michelle Robbins, who was the assistant band director, who is out. You know, she just had a beautiful baby girl a couple of weeks ago. But you know, got to acknowledge her. With the marching band, the staff is unmatched. Shapira Brody, who works with she's an auxiliary sponsor. DeAndre Terry, Chris Jenkins, who was an alumni of Dillard, but also comes back and gives his time to the students. Terrence Grizzle, TJ is an outstanding percussionist, drummer on the road, also videographer, also so many things, a big part of our program. He actually did most of the video and stuff that you're seeing there. Efren Johnson, Freddie Harris, Coach Didi Biggs, who is our flag coordinator, Devontae Gray, Shatangela Patton, who is our dance coordinator, Leslie Evans, who also works with Leslie Evans and Stacey Brown, who also work with the auxiliary, Larisha Gordon, who's going to be joining us. And of course, I have to say Leonard Sanchez, who passed this summer. He's been working with the band program far before me. I think this would have been his 20th year working with the band program. So, you know, none of this happens without that entire team of people working together. Have to acknowledge the band parents that support what we do. And, you know, with parents, it's an interesting thing because you want their support, but you don't want them all up in your face. You know, just sometimes it's a bit much, but we have some supportive parents and we appreciate them so much for what they do. The Dillard Center for the Arts Foundation, it's just all of those things come together and make this happen. So like I said, I just wanted to make sure I took the time and let them know, everyone know how much we appreciate them. The alumni that are out there doing their thing, who wear the brand of Dillard High School with them, that carry it with them wherever they are. We appreciate you, and we just want everyone to continue to do the best that they could possibly can do. So like I said, I just wanted to acknowledge all of those people and thank you again, Fabian, for having us on the show.
Yeah, well, deepest gratitude to you, Sheldon, for making this all happen. And I do want to acknowledge the game changers on this show, just young, great talent. And you can just tell that you got that vision and that power. And we just know that you're going great places. So if you could just raise your hand, Charles Cherry III, trumpet, junior, excellent. Madalena Freydin, clarinet, she's a senior. Joshua Hitman Jackson plays the saxophone, he's a junior. Mackenzie Tice plays a French horn, and she's a senior. And Garrett Lovers, he's a junior, he plays the trumpet. And Mr. Aviel Del Rosario, he plays the bass, and he's a junior. And we had a cameo video from Adrian Braga, he's a senior, playing the trumpet. And also Brandon Stacy was so kind to join us. So thank you for all of you, great young people. Continue to lead, continue to be great. And once again, Sheldon, thank you for making this all happen. I believe we're going to close now with the Temptations cover from the marching band. So thank you all very much. You can join Game Changers. You can check us out on IG, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So hopefully you can join us again. But once again, thank you to the Dillard family for gracing us this evening.
Thank you, Fabian. And the last thing, I can never do anything without acknowledging my beautiful wife, Dr. Erin McLean. I got to stop saying Erin Jackson, my last name now. But yeah, man, everything. She's in the other room watching the stream and always a supporter of the program. And she shows up to our concert. She flies to New York to see us perform or to be in Tampa or wherever we are. So I definitely want to just make sure she knows that I appreciate her. I know she's watching.
That's awesome. Okay.
One of them real quick saying,
yes.
Also saying thank you to Mr. McLean Like, none of this would happen without him. You know, he's recognizing everybody else, but I think we deserve to give him recognition as well, that he's the glue for a lot of the stuff.
Thank you, Mackenzie, for those kind words. And once again, thanks for having everybody here tonight. Close out. Thank you once again.
Thank you, students. I appreciate you all being here. Y'all have a good rest of the afternoon, a good evening, rest of the weekend. See y'all on Monday.
All right. Take care. Thanks once again.